Hey, what's up, everybody? Nexil here. Today, I want to let you guys know about what's going on with me, why I essentially disappeared off of the face of the YouTube world for the past month. I haven't posted any content, no comments, I haven't been as active on my Discord. So I want to give you the full story about exactly what happened and what that means for the channel moving forward. But before I get started on that story, I do want to say thank you all so much for your patience. Thank you all so much for your support. I actually had more subscribers this past month, and I was like, shoot, I feel bad. I'm not releasing any content right now. So for everyone who's new, welcome. For everyone who's returning, thank you for your patience. I'm going to try my best to get back on the ball and start recording soon. I've got quite a few things lined up. I picked up Persona 5 Royal. I'm working on my hard mode run for Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm going to be doing some polls for things like the Kingdom Hearts 3 Dark Riku that's out right now. So there's stuff along the way. The dates are just to be determined right now, so please bear with me. And again, thank you all so much for your support during this time. So let me go ahead and start with my story and what happened to me. And unfortunately, it does involve COVID-19. So for me, let's backtrack to early March. So early March, I still wasn't taking it too seriously. Like, I knew it was getting bad. It was definitely getting to the point where it was getting really bad, but there were still only like a few cases in the US at that point. And then they said only like 2% of my age group really starts to develop any sort of serious symptoms. And then the rest of them just don't feel at all. Like, they can get it and not feel any symptoms at all. And so I was like, all right, maybe it won't be so bad. You know, I'm in like a healthy age range, and then it maybe it'll just pass over me. You know, maybe it'll just get me and then just go away without me even realizing it. But then they announced the pandemic was starting, and then I was like, all right, maybe it's time to play it a bit more safe if they're going to call it a pandemic. Again, a pandemic means that multiple countries around the world are getting involved in this. So I did the stay-at-home order. I stayed at home as much as possible, only really leaving to get like groceries. And then whenever I had to leave to go get those groceries, I always made sure I washed my hands before and after I left. And then I made sure to carry on some hand sanitizer with me just in case I was going to like touch a cart or, you know, do something essentially that would require me to touch a surface that might be infected. So I carried the hand sanitizer with me. And then during that time, all my meetings were moved to online, so I didn't have to go physically out anywhere to have these meetings. So I did my best trying to do the stay-at-home order stuff and making sure that I wasn't getting sick and that I wasn't getting anyone else sick. And then, unfortunately, late March is when it really started to sink in. So at the end of March, I developed some weakness. I developed some fatigue. I was tired a lot. But I thought to myself, maybe it's just an effect of working at home too much. Because I don't know about you all, I have quite a hard time working from home because I'm just like, all right, well, my bed's right there. Okay, there's some video games right there. Like, it's hard for me to focus on work while I'm at home, essentially. So I was like, maybe it's just you're not used to working at home. Maybe you just want to sleep in more. Maybe you just want to like relax more. Maybe you just want to rest more. And I was like, it's probably just something to do with me getting used to the idea of working at home. But unfortunately, as April rolled in, things got worse for me. So at the beginning of April, I found out that I was actually exposed to a lot of people that actually had COVID-19. And so I was like, all right, you know, let's just play it safe. I don't have any symptoms right now, but let's just play it safe. Let's go get tested. Let's see what we got. So I went to the hospital, got tested, and it came back negative. And I was like, all right, well, that's a good sign, you know, that maybe this weakness, maybe this fatigue, maybe it's just me being tired. Maybe it's just me being lazy. So I was like, all right, that's a good sign. We're negative. But then as that first week of April kept going, it just got worse and worse for me. So I remember there was actually one night specifically where I was like, man, I have this really awful headache going on. And I was like, maybe I should just take my temperature, you know, just play it safe. You know, a thermometer, super easy, super quick. So I took my temperature and it read out at 101.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I know we do metrics here in the US, but the danger number for the US is going to be 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit. I was 1.1 degree above that, which is really, really bad. It means that even if you don't have symptoms, your body is telling you there's something wrong. Your body is fighting against something. You just have no idea what. So the fever lets you know that you've got something, and mine was just through the roof at that point. I don't recall a time when it's ever been that high in my life, actually. So I was like, shoot, I've got something. Like, I probably have COVID-19 at this point. And then during that week, again, it just kept getting worse. So there was a point where I couldn't eat anything. So I tried to make food. I tried to make, even just easy foods, pizza rolls, things like that, or maybe just a sandwich that I made, peanut butter and jelly, something like that. But I'd find myself taking one bite out of this food, and then I couldn't even eat the rest of it. I would literally be looking at it, and I'd be like, you haven't eaten all day, but for some reason, you're also not hungry. So I would take one bite and then just feel done. I wasn't full, but I also wasn't hungry anymore. Like, my appetite was just gone. I was like, all right, well, that's not a good sign that you can't eat anymore. And then towards the end of that first week of April, that's when the shortness of breath kicked in. And for anyone who's really been paying attention to the symptoms of this thing, shortness of breath is a really, really bad sign. And the way it hit me is that there was one day, I remember I was going to make breakfast. And then as I got to the stairs, because the kitchen is one floor above me, so as I got to the stairs, I could barely walk up of them. So normally when I go upstairs, I'm like running up these stairs. I got somewhere to be. I'm jumping steps, things like that, just to get to where I need to be faster. But this time around, I had to go up these stairs one at a time. So it was right foot first, okay? Pick up the left foot, you're on one step now. And then you got 15 more to go. And I was like, I can barely walk up these steps anymore. There is something wrong with me. But I'm still young. I'm still young. Maybe this will just pass over. Maybe it'll just go away with time. And so I went and I was making my food, and all I was making was toast and eggs, which is like super simple to make. But as I was cooking this egg, as I was standing at my stove, I got really short of breath. I was literally standing still making eggs. I wasn't running around. It's not like I was baking a cake or making a souffle or something. I was just standing in place, cooking an egg. And then halfway through it, I was like, I gotta sit down. Like, I can barely support myself standing up right now. I have to sit down. And it's at that point where I'm making eggs and I got short of breath in the middle of standing still that I was like, there's definitely something wrong with you. You are not okay right now. And so I tried to talk it out with someone, and I could barely say 5 words before I had to take like a really deep breath. Like, let's just say the intro for a regular YouTube video for me, it's like every 5 words I had to take a really deep breath. So it's like, hey, what's up, everybody? Nexil here. Today we are playing some Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. Like, it took me a long time just to get out a full sentence. I could barely hold a conversation at that point. And that's when I knew that I was getting worse. I was barely awake. I was awake for only 8 hours of the day, and I was sleeping the other 16. So I was literally asleep twice as long as I was awake. And it all just built up until mid-April, when I was actually taken to the emergency department. And when I got there, because I was driven there, I didn't take an ambulance or anything like that. I was driven there. And when I got there, I tried to get out of this car, and I could barely walk to the entrance of the hospital. We're talking like maybe, I don't know, like 3 meters or like a few feet away. We're not even talking a long distance. And I couldn't even walk that. So they had to bring a wheelchair to the door of the hospital. They're just like, just sit down, don't strain yourself. And I was being wheelchaired into an emergency department. And as I was being wheelchaired into there, and they were like taking my temperature, they were like screening me, they were doing all this stuff, they were putting like the electrodes on me, they were going to get this chest x-ray, they were doing all this stuff to me. And as all this stuff was going on, they were getting like a questionnaire, things like that. Like, all this stuff is moving. And what I was thinking to myself was, do I make it out of this? Do I get to go home? Do I get better? Because at this point, being brought to the emergency department and feeling like I can barely hold my own breath, I was saying to myself, do I just die here? Do I just not make it out of the hospital? And it's so scary because there's no treatment for this. I could just be in the hospital. I could get better. I could get worse. Like, there's no idea what could possibly happen. Yes, I was in the age group that really only had like 2% of people get really severely affected, but it felt like I was that 2%, that 1 in 50 people. It felt like I was like, oh my gosh, it happened to me. Like, this is happening right now. I'm in the emergency department getting hooked up to stuff right now. So it was just so scary, because another thing that I thought, not just was I going to leave this hospital, not just was I going to die, it was also I need to say goodbye to people. If I don't make it out of this, if they have to put a tube down my throat, like, I want to at least be able to say goodbye to people that I care about. So I was like frantically texting people because I couldn't call. Remember, I could barely make sentences at this point. I was frantically texting people. I was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that, we don't talk a lot, but I really appreciate you as a friend. Hey, I know that I don't say it as much as I should, but I wanted to let you know that I love you. There was so many thoughts just going through my head where I was thinking to myself, I don't want to die here. I don't want to pass away like this. There's still a lot I want to do with my future, things like that. But it's like this mix of like, I might be okay, I might not be okay. What do I have to do if I'm not going to be okay? And it all just floods your mind really, really quickly, because you don't think about it. You don't think about it until it's you. You don't think about how bad it can be until you're the one lying in the hospital bed as they're getting this huge machine just to get a chest x-ray on you. So naturally, all these thoughts are going through my head. They're still working up on me. And then they get a COVID test, and it came back negative. And I was devastated. I was like, what do I have? What is wrong with me? Like, I'm pretty sure it was still COVID-19. I'm pretty sure I still got the coronavirus because all the symptoms were there. I've read articles, I've read medical journals, New England Journal of Medicine, things like scientific articles about what the symptoms of this are like, and I literally checkmarked all of them. So I was like, there's no way I was negative. Like, did I test negative twice? I'm not sure. But what I knew is that it came back negative, and then they came back with the results of the chest x-ray, and they said, hey, we don't know how to break this to you. The test might have said you're negative, but you've got something in your lungs. You've got something in the lower part of your lungs, and it's occupying some of the space that air normally occupies. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is literally growing in my lungs, and it's destroying the bottom part of my lungs right now. Like, do I make it? And I just kept asking myself that question while I was in the hospital. Do I make it out of this? Like, what's the next step? Do I get treated? Do I go home? So because I tested negative, but because they found something on the chest x-ray, they gave me the choice. They said, you can either stay here overnight in the hospital in the emergency department, and we will monitor you some more. But know that everyone on this floor has COVID right now. Everyone on this floor has coronavirus, or at least there were some people that had coronavirus that were on that floor. And they're just like, you staying here puts you at risk for being susceptible, for being able to potentially get coronavirus from the other patients in the hospital. Or I could just go home and then rest and hope that it gets better, because the doctor and I were just like, yeah, I'm still pretty young, maybe it just passes over. But we had no idea. It could have gone either way. So I thought to myself, I was like, all right, you know what? I just want to go home. If I am going to pass away from this, I'm going to be with the people I love. I am going to be surrounded by people I care about in the comfort of my own place, and not have a tube shoved down my throat to just provide me oxygen. And so I went home that day, and a part of me really wanted to actually reach out to my YouTube community, reach out via Discord, something like that, and just say, hey, I just got back from the emergency department. They found something in my lungs. I'm not really sure what. They're not really sure what. And just say, like, thank you all. Thank you for your support over the years. Thank you for the great times that we had over live stream, things like that. But then I thought to myself one more time, I was like, the last video that you made before this all happened was your pull battle with Octo. And that was a dream come true for you. That's something you wanted to do for the longest time. So I thought to myself, you know what? If I'm going to go away, if I'm going to pass away, the last video that I have is of me fulfilling a dream that I always wanted to do. And I'm okay leaving it at that. So that was just one of the thoughts, that I wanted to let you all know what was going on. But at the same time, I wasn't physically capable of doing a lot. So I was just content with that last video. And that's why I was like, all right, I'm not going to, if I'm going to go out on a good note, if that's what's going to happen to me. So the next 6 days after that were just awful. It felt like I was literally just clinging onto my consciousness at that point. I was barely awake for 4 hours, literally getting sleep for the rest of those 20 hours. The only nutrition I had at that point was 2 nutritional shakes. I don't know if everyone knows what Ensure is, but it's just a nutritional shake to make sure that you're getting like vitamins, to make sure that you're getting nutrients. Because again, I still couldn't eat. Solid foods were not my best friend at that time. So I just had 2 nutritional shakes, and that was literally my nutrition for like 6 days. 6 days straight, I was relying on 2 bottles of this really disgusting tasting nutritional shake just to make sure that my body was getting enough nutrients to keep itself alive. I still had a fever. I still had a violent cough. I still could barely form words and sentences like cohesively. And every day, I just thought to myself, am I getting better? Am I getting worse? Do I want to go back to the hospital just to check, like, if it's spreading? Because a part of me wanted to know, like, do I die here? Is this the end of the line for me? So a part of me was really just like, I just want to keep going back to the ED. I want to keep getting this chest x-ray. I want to keep seeing what's going on with me. Am I getting better or worse, so that I can just plan for what's about to happen? And it was awful. It was just an awful feeling for 6 days straight. That whole like second week of April, I was just out of commission. But clearly I made it. Clearly I'm here to this day. I was able to make it. After that really awful week, my symptoms started to resolve. I was able to start eating again. Granted, I had to force myself to eat because I just couldn't not eat. You know what I mean? You gotta keep your nutrition up. So I was like, all right, I gotta start eating some solid foods. I was able to start walking more. I was able to start climbing up steps 1 at a time, or even 2 at a time at this point. So I was really getting my strength back. But it's like, I came back from having symptoms just to be slapped in the face with the hard reality that someone that I love and care about got really, really sick. And save for another long personal story, they didn't make it. So these past few weeks, even though I got better in the middle of April, these past few weeks have just been like consistent grieving with loss. Because for those who haven't experienced, and I hope that nobody ever has to experience this, grieving during this time is ridiculously hard. You can't even get a hug from someone when you're so sad. And honestly, how sad does that sound? You can't even get a hug when you feel really depressed. So there's just so many complications with trying to grieve while at the same time trying to do the social distancing, trying to not put others at risk. And that's why I haven't been making anything, even though I got better about a month ago, is I was just too sad. Like I could barely function, to be honest. Honestly, I'll be honest with you right now, I'm still not at 100% yet. I don't feel completely ready to resume a normal life quite yet. So if that's why I say these videos are to be determined, because I'm not really sure when they're going to come out. Am I going to be okay one day to do them? Am I going to be a complete wreck the next day? Like I'm not really sure. I'm not 100% better yet. And I hope you can all understand that it's been quite the crazy month. Like it's been so hard for me to process what happened to me and to like my surrounding, community this past month, that I'm still trying to cope with certain ideas. It honestly feels like I'm living a new life. Like I'm in a completely different world than I was 2 months ago. So before I close out this video, and because that's where my story brings us, it brings us to today. What I want to close this video out with is just what I've learned from this past month and what I hope that people can take away from listening to my story and exactly what happened to me. So what I want you to take away from this is that only one person that I knew lost to COVID. And as of recording this video, there are 302,493 deaths, reported deaths. And each one of those represents someone's family. It represents a daughter. It represents a grandmother. It represents a mom or dad. It represents a close friend. It represents someone you may not have ended on good terms with, but you wish you always did. So just know that each one of those reported cases is someone who has gone through a lot of trauma. It's a family that had their fingers crossed, that prayed every day, that is going through a hard time knowing that there is no real cure for this. All we can do is just buy time for right now until we figure out what the next step is. So just know that every single case that emerges is a family that could potentially be divided. Know that even if you're only in an age group where it's a low percentage, you should still play it safe. That is exactly what my thought was at the beginning, where I didn't play it safe. I was like, oh, only this percentage get really sick in my age group. Like I should be okay. Like the odds are in my favor. And clearly they were totally not in my favor, and I got really sick. And you heard exactly like what my thought process was as I was going through this. So even if you're in an age group where you feel like you're immune to what's going on right now, you still gotta play it safe, because one, you never know if it's going to be you, and two, you never know who you can give it to. It could be you're healthy, but you give it to a grandmother who can't support themselves as much as a young person can. So really, when you're doing the safe thing, when you're doing the best thing for other people, it's because you want to keep them safe too. This isn't just a story about one person, about what we want to do, because there's so many people right now, and I live in the US, there's so many people that want to go outside and do things. There are people that miss eating at restaurants. There are people who miss going to the mall. There are people who literally haven't gotten their haircut since last year. And these people want to go outside. But remember to always do the next best thing. Always do the right thing, because it's not just about you. It's about all the people around you. It's about going through this together and making sure that we can come out as best as we possibly can when we can't even see what we're fighting. We literally cannot see this virus. If it gets in you, you have no idea until you start developing symptoms. So even if you're in that age group where things don't look too bad, it's not a 0% chance. There is always the chance that you can get bad and end up with like what feels like a life traumatizing story like I did. Know that no death is acceptable. None. Again, those are family members. Those are friends. Those are people who have someone out there who's waiting for them. Even just using like a percentage, again, 2%. Am I the only YouTuber that you know that is talking about their experience with coronavirus? Am I that 2% for you? You all barely know like a lot about my personal life, but you know about me because we've interacted like this, because you've been to my live streams, because you've seen my videos and what my personality is normally like outside of this craziness that's going on right now. So I might just be the 2% that you're going to have to use as a frame of reference for what's going on. So no death is acceptable, no matter who it is. And then if there's one final thing that I can ask of all of you, when you go home, when you're able to see them next, if you have people you care about, if you have loved ones, just let them know that you love them. Let them know that you care about them. It's very, very simple. It's something I wish I did more in general for family, for friends. I wish I just told them more how much I cared about them. And at this point, it feels like I've conditioned myself so much that it's really going to be hard for me to get over this. But just let them know that you care about them. Let them know that you love them, because there's no way to know when words become last words. And that is a regret that can just bury itself deep in your soul. So just let them know. Just be grateful for everything that they've given to you. Let them know that you appreciate them. And just be good to each other. Just be good to each other, and know that it's hard. Know that it's hard, no matter what. Whether you have to get over this block that you used to have that prevented you from telling these people that you cared about them, just do it for the right reason. Do it for the right reason. That's really the best way I could summarize it. So again, thank you all for listening to my story. I hope it gave you some insight as to what was going on with me, how you should feel about this COVID-19 thing, especially if you haven't gotten it. It's really hard to tell a story when people haven't gotten it, because for the people that don't get it, sometimes they're just like, oh, that's not too many people, or like, oh, this has only affected so many people. But it's like, no death is acceptable. None. Zero. We fight this virus together. We all pair together, and the best victory, the best outcome is going to be if we all cross that finish line together, knowing that we were able to get past this. So please, everyone, we have to work together. We have to do the next best thing. We have to keep doing the right thing for everyone and not just for ourselves. So that's my story. That's where I went. Again, I plan on making content as the future moves on, but as of right now, I'm still not at 100%. So I hope you can all understand that I'm really just baby stepping my way back into this. But with that being said, that is all for today. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. But until next time, everyone, be safe and take it easy.